Hello there. While those Remoaners berated Brexit, the city just got on with the work. Well, this is not going to go down well with the Remoaner rejoiners, is it? After all that continued drivel of Brexit doom and gloom, business has got on with the job of doing, well, business. We were all warned that Brexit was the death knell for the City of London, weren't we? But time and again the Remoaners have been proved the false prophets of catastrophe. How many times did we hear that the money and expert staff would just up sticks day one of our leaving the EU and plonk themselves into the warm embrace of Brussels, taking all their profit making with them, so making the EU richer and leaving the UK in the gutter. How many times did we hear that Canary Wharf would just crumble away under the incessant onslaught of the powerful Eurozone and ECB? And there the doomsayers waited, ready to pounce and scream, "We told you so." But while they spouted all that, the financiers in the square mile set about adapting to the new business model and started to pivot their business focus elsewhere. And that has proven to be a good call, because the latest data shows that UK financial services exports to the US have outstripped those to the EU for the first time since the Brexit vote. In 2020, exports from UK banks and finance companies sent 34.2% of their exported business to the US, whereas 30% went to the EU, says the City UK. But there are also other facts that emerge from the research by the City UK. Now, the City UK is the industry-led body that represents UK-based financial and related services. Services that contribute over 10% of the UK's entire economic output. This sector is the largest taxpayer and employs 1 in 14 people in the UK, with only 1/3 of them actually working in London. And the City UK says it is also the biggest exporting industry, generating a trade surplus equivalent to all other net exporting industries combined. And that's exactly why the Remoaners wanted it to fail post-Brexit. Remoaners want the UK to fail comprehensively outside the European Union, purely for their own selfish political big EU superstate reasons, not because they want a better life for ordinary UK citizens. That doesn't factor into it. Anyway, back to this new data, which might open a few eyes to the fact that the UK isn't some sort of minor failing country on the outskirts of the EU. Far from it. And here's one that might make you sit up and take notice. According to the City UK, the UK has 43% of the total global turnover in foreign currency exchange. So what the Remoaners call an insignificant little island deals with 43% of foreign exchange transaction turnover. Now we come to another figure that might surprise many. But first I have to put this in an EU context. After Brexit, the EU did everything they could to take full control of euro clearing out of London. They wanted to take the bulk of euro trading, but they failed, to the extent that big EU financial institutions and banks sent a letter to the EU Commission demanding that they still have access to London clearing, or else the whole EU would fall off a cliff edge. So there is a Brexit cliff edge, but not quite the one the Remoaners envisaged. So what's the US angle here? Well, the City UK reports that about 2.5 times as many US dollars are traded in the UK as are traded in the US. And that doesn't seem to bother the US markets one jot, probably because they are looking at it in more market terms than in pure political control terms like the Brussels bureaucrats do. In fact, according to a recent report in the Telegraph, the Brussels push to raid the City of London and taking control of euro clearing for what it calls strategic autonomy in financial services would be a bad outcome for the world. The main reason being that Brussels would want to rewrite the rules to accommodate the EU's way of running a currency with no proper centralised treasury and central bank system. As the piece in the Telegraph said, the EU would try to paper over the cracks of a half-built financial system, which would only mask the problems, not eradicate them. And it goes on to say that anchoring euro clearing into the EU would actually be reckless and place huge pressures on clearinghouses. Far better to leave it all in the capable hands of London, it seems. But not what Remoaners want to hear. Now, while Putin mobilises troops and equipment to the borders of Ukraine, the US President Joe Biden is promising a strong response. But what exactly does that mean? But before I get onto that, I just want to say a massive thank you to all my Super Thanks Patreon and PayPal supporters, as well as those that do buy a mug with my mug on it. Links in the descriptions box below. You really do help me keep this channel going. According to Sky News, President Joe Biden has told Russian President Vladimir Putin that the US and its allies would respond with strong economic and other measures if Russia invaded Ukraine. So not a NATO-based military response then. But the West already imposes sanctions on Russia, quite heavy sanctions, so one has to ask the question, what is there left to sanction Russia with? According to the US government, sanctions already imposed are sanctions on Russian persons, individuals, entities and vessels in response to conduct including Russia's illegal annexation of Crimea, invasion of eastern Ukraine, election interference, malicious cyber activities, human rights abuses, uses of chemical weapons, weapons proliferation, illicit trade with North Korea, and support to Syria and Venezuela. Now that's quite a list, isn't it? So what would taking a few more square miles of the Ukraine attract? Well, The Guardian recently pointed to the sorts of things left with such things as widening the ban on trading Russian bonds, refusing authorization for the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline, although that might upset the Germans a bit, place complete sanctions on the big Russian banks, energy and defence companies, take out individual sanctions against Russian oligarchs and their families, including Putin's lot. And they could also really cripple Russia by excluding it from the global electronic payment system SWIFT, so making it very difficult for those within Russia to trade globally. But what will Putin make of all of this? If neither the US nor NATO are making red-line military defensive statements about a Russian incursion into Ukraine, Putin might just take it as a message that he might as well chance his arm. A few days ago, the NATO Secretary-General, Jens Stoltenberg, told Reuters that NATO was providing political support to the Ukraine and also providing practical support in the form of capacity building and training. And he also said NATO has no troops or hardware of its own and relies on its member states to provide defensive equipment to Ukraine, which some are doing. But it doesn't look like anyone's talking about taking military action just yet, at least not publicly. But the BBC reports that military experts are saying we should be very worried about the Russian build-up, because it shows a very substantial build-up of combat elements as well as a follow-up force capable of controlling any territory the initial attack succeeds in capturing. And it quotes Michael Kaufman of the US Center for Naval Analyses as calling this build-up a credible invasion force. And he went on to say that Despite the outcomes of any talks between Putin and Biden, the Russians are likely to keep building up their forces in the area, with the signs of his intent coming from the disposition and activity of those forces. So what's your opinion on all of this? Please like and comment below. Please subscribe and like this video, buy a mug and support me on Patreon or PayPal, and thank you for watching.